All right, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Paul from Changescape Web in St. Louis, and I'm joined by Ken Tucker, also from Changescape Web, and Ian Cantle from Outsource Marketing in Bradford, Ontario. And Jeff couldn't join us today. He's from Telerik Marketing Systems in Austin. Today we're joined by Jessica Embree. Is that how I pronounce it? Is that correct?
Close, Embree.
Embree, okay. And she is the creative director for TULIP Media Group. And we're going to be talking about print media because, print's dead, email marketing's dead, SEO is dead, everything's dead. Just ask the self-anointed gurus. So, Jessica, you've been the creative director at TULIP Media Group for 8 years or more. You work with client partners, and you craft their brand identities with stories and clear and consistent marketing messages. And you also take on the lead on all of Tulip Media's print and digital marketing programs for client partners, and you're also a co-author of the Amazon bestseller Double Sales, Zero Salespeople. Optimize your sales and marketing in one customer development strategy that works. So I guess what I want to start off with is that can you discuss and define brand identities? I think that's an important concept for our audience to understand.
Yeah, and I think that is different for everyone listening and watching. Brand identity to me is how you communicate your product. It's how people perceive you. It's what your values are and what your brand says about you at the end of the day. And I think that's why it's so important to keep that in mind when you're trying to market your business or service is how are people perceiving you? How are you solving their problem at the end of the day?
Yeah, we're big on problem solving language, obviously coming from StoryBrand. I'm sure you're not surprised to hear that. But, it's also the key to SEO too. Really, a lot of people don't realize. Yeah, so, and obviously, I know you've got some StoryBrand background as well. How do you weave in the internal and external philosophical all in to the messaging for a client?
It comes down to really asking yourself is what it is you want people to perceive you at. Are you going to be helpful? Are you helping them overcome and grow their business? And weaving that problem in, like you were just saying, Ken, and what that solution is you're providing to them, I think is so important. And it's something that we sometimes miss. When we look at messaging for businesses, a lot of businesses are like, we've been in business for 120 years. Locally owned, which is very important, but it's not talking about the person's problem and why they're coming to your site at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. So in today's world, where most of what we hear about, most of what we read about is all focused on digital. Mm-hmm. Why is print marketing still important, and how does it still have relevance?
Well, Paul said it. It's a perception of print is dead. And I argue, I feel like every day, that it's not. It's still a very valuable part of your marketing mix. Your emptiest inbox is your mailbox. You get hundreds of emails every day, but think about how much physical mail you get in the inbox to cut through the noise that you have online and in your inbox. It builds credibility. It's a reputation builder. Not everybody's doing it. So it's a great way to get ahead and tell people your story, tell people how your product or service can help them. It's a great brand awareness builder.
I probably shouldn't say this, but one day this week, I only got 2 pieces of mail in my physical mail.
Yeah.
I'll send you something.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, okay. Please send me something, Ian. I need
all our listeners. Send Ken some mail.
Yeah. And I mean, look behind you, Ken. Like you have hundreds of books behind you. There's not much difference in between what TULIP does, which is customized magazines branded to businesses, and authors writing a book to build that credibility, build their reputation, and have their story told in a different medium.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely a part of a magazine that is done for realtors called Real Producers. There are 5 franchises that we work with, and I write articles in those publications and run a podcast for them because I know we're going to talk a lot more about this as we go through, but I'm a big fan of integrating digital with print. So we'll get into that. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder. But yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. The physical mailbox for people is maybe the least competitive place to show up right now for a lot of businesses these days.
Yeah, and think of all real estate's a great example. It's a hot market. You can't keep a house on the market right now, and realtors need to stay ahead of the curve. And a lot of the mail that I get are coupons from restaurants. I get Costco magazines, golf magazines, because my husband's very into golf. And
Nothing wrong with that.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, listeners. And of course, I get a lot of real estate stuff, but that's how I know our realtors around the areas, because I see their stuff show up in my mailbox. I don't get their emails, but I see their stuff show up in my inbox, my mailbox.
Yeah. Cool.
And this might be a little off topic, but I was talking to a young 20-something the other day about different things, and we live in this digital world, and he's like, you go online, everyone texts and fills out forms. He said, sometimes I just want to pick up the frickin' phone and talk to someone when I'm dealing with a business. And he's like 23 years old. And you would think that would be the last person that wants to pick up the phone and talk to someone. But it's just, it's not true. We want that connection.
There's hope for the future.
And Paul, I think you just made a really good point. Print media has a great way of building that community sense, that personalized sense. Because I'm going to go back to Ken's example of real estate. You're selling one of your biggest assets. You want to be able to see who you're talking to. You want to see them face to face, have that personal experience and trust with them. So print is a way for you to communicate that to your consumers and your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you share some examples or case studies where print marketing has outperformed digital marketing? Because I think it can, like Ken said, it's the least competitive space because no one does it anymore. Well, I shouldn't say no one, but very few people do it.
Mm-hmm. We work with various different types of businesses all over North America, real estate included. But one of my favorite ones is a fire truck manufacturer that we have and as one of our clients. And these are $500,000 trucks. So these aren't people necessarily buying everything online as an impulse buy. These are people who need work, overtime, nurture campaigns. And I remember one time I got an email from a client. He goes, I just sold a truck because of your print newsletter that you help us put out. And the reason was it was one article, and it was 3 features you need to have on your next tanker. And it described the features. Now, this is not content for me, this is not content for you, but for fire chiefs who are receiving this type of information, it's very important to them because they want to make sure that they're protecting their community, they're going to be safe, and they have the equipment they need. So he was ecstatic. He was like, I just made a $500,000 sale from a print newsletter that we sent out that I've been trying to get this person for years now. These fire trucks last 5 to 10 years. So this is a long-term game for them. And this is a perfect example of why print was so important to this fire truck manufacturer.
Interesting.
And I think that the more expensive the product or service you're selling, the longer that sales cycle, the more important that print media becomes. Because if you're selling a $5 widget, okay, so what? But if you're selling, like you said, a $500,000, I thought they were actually more expensive than that. Fire trucks are not cheap, But if you're selling a product that costs tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, that's a long sales cycle, and print can be a very important part of that whole, customer touch point thing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different reasons why our customers do print. There's the fire truck manufacturer, but we also work with a lot of insurance agencies and associations too, who are trying to build not only their consumer base, but their membership base. So our associations are coming to us saying, we're trying to build our membership. Here's a great piece of print media that allows us to do that. And so it fits in different ways for each client partner we work with.
It's interesting because we often separate them into two worlds, but in fact, it's just part of the marketing mix, right? We talk on this podcast a lot about omni-channel marketing, and print in its many forms is just another part of the marketing mix that can be so successful.
Mhm.
But from your perspective, Jessica, what are some of the unique advantages to doing print marketing compared to some of the digital channels?
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about reputation, the credibility behind it. We talked about cutting through the noise. But one thing I love about print marketing is the specific targeting that you can do with it. So and for Tulip Media, we take care of all this for our clients, is what we do is we'll say, okay, insurance agency XYZ, give us your current client list because we want to nurture those people. But who are you trying to target in your local state? And they'll say, we're trying to target businesses that have 10 to 25 employees that specialize in this industry, that are CXOs, CMOs, CEOs, and also have these demographics. And we're able to pull lists about that. And I know in the digital realm, we can do that with retargeting, pixels and such, but I love doing that type of targeted audiences and also putting that value added content in a magazine to get that brand awareness and those foot in the doors that you might need to make that sale.
And do you guys monitor or track in some form or another the retention of the materials that are sent out? Because one of the unique things about print versus digital is that if somebody sees something of value, they'll hold on to it for a longer period in general.
Mm-hmm.
But do you guys have any statistics related to that, or even some anecdotal stories?
Yeah, magazines stick around a lot longer than a Facebook ad you see online, and we've seen that 7 to 10 days is typically what people will hold on to a magazine for. And that may seem small to others, but comparing that to digital data, that's pretty impressive. And the beauty of the content that we're putting in your magazine is sometimes there's engagement pieces in there. So scan this QR code to download a free PDF. You're getting that website traffic, you're getting the analytics of the QR code, and you're getting their email if they want to download that PDF. So you're mixing your print and digital there. So you're able to get analytics in a couple different ways, and there's a lot of different things that Tulip can do for you to make those engaging pieces and get those numbers behind the print.
Yeah, QR codes seem to be making a resurgence. They were hot for a while, and then they kind of fell out of favor, and now it seems like now everyone's using them again.
That
It's because of COVID.
It was COVID. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Restaurants.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely. So, Jessica, how do you see the role of print marketing evolving alongside, the advancements and the changes in digital marketing?
I'm excited for this because this is something that we're always looking into. But augmented reality and virtual reality, we're starting to see. I think Facebook just came out with the goggles and the glasses. But that is becoming more and more a possibility that you can see a print piece or a billboard and take out your phone and see something differently through your phone. One thing that I know I've seen in the past is you open up a jewelry magazine and you put your hand out with your phone being held up and you're trying on those jewelry pieces in real time. So those types of advancements are really exciting. Of course, there's the QR codes. AI is ever evolving, and that's something that we've invested in here at Tulip to learn more about and also build our own AI engines. But it's an exciting time to witness this type of advancements in technology.
Yeah, one of the things that we're doing for a couple of our clients is we're actually using website traffic to initiate printed postcards that are being sent to to website visitors. As it's a different form of remarketing, but again, as we talked about earlier, the physical mailbox is a less competitive space. We all know you need multiple marketing touches, to be able to get your messaging through all of the other noise that's out there, and just naturally through the buyer's journey. sometimes when people land on your website, they're not ready to take any action, but, maybe the day you hit them with a postcard, they are ready. So are you guys doing anything like that as well?
That is a possibility, for sure, Ken. And I love how you just kind of called it a transitional call to action in the StoryBrand world, postcards. And yeah, it's definitely a possibility that you can take your digital data and transform it into the print using the remarketing tactics. I know it's something we've looked into before at TULIP.
So is most of what you're doing right now, one of my concerns always, from a print perspective is how do you get it into the right hands and past a gatekeeper, right? So I think magazines are a great strategy because magazines have, a higher perceived value than just a letter that comes in the mail that clearly looks like it's probably just, an unsolicited request for for something. Do you guys do anything else beyond just magazines? We talk about, lumpy mail strategies, where you're actually using printed media in some kind of a tactile form to get into the hands of the right people and get past those gatekeepers. What are you guys doing around anything like that?
So our biggest focus at TULIP is the customized magazine programs, because you're right, there is that perceived value. Magazines get by the reception desk, they get by the gatekeepers because they have the CEO's name on it, and it's something that the CEO is interested in. That's why they're receiving that magazine. We do newsletters as well, so they can be 4 to 16 pages, whatever fits for you. And that's where we've really seen the success, because I like how you said that, Ken, is that perceived value is there with that type of medium.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of businesses, it frustrates me because I know so much money that they just waste, where they're literally sending just a postcard.
Yeah.
Or they're sending a regular sized envelope, and it's like you don't know that person or that business. Those are very likely to just be put immediately into the recycle bin, because it's so obvious what they are, and it's like the equivalent of I'm not a big fan of LinkedIn these days because every message I get from LinkedIn is a sales message to me, or people want to connect with me purely for the motive of being able to sell to me. And to me, a piece of mail that I get in a regular envelope from somebody that I don't know is exactly the same thing. And so I immediately discard those, and I suspect I'm not alone in that. So I love the fact that you're doing things to get past the recycle bin and the gatekeeper.
Yeah, and that's why we always mix nurture, give us your client list, and also we'll pull a list, because we want to nurture your current client list that, like you said, they may have visited your website before, or they may have talked to you before, but they just weren't ready to buy at that time. So we always want to make sure we're mixing that.
Yeah. I mean, it's the old value in advance, right? I mean, a magazine gives you value in advance from, digital marketer language. You in order, before you ask for something, you need to, and StoryBrand talks about this as well, you need to deliver this value in advance.
Yeah, you need to date them first before you ask for marriage, is what
Yep.
they say.
Yep, absolutely.
And a quick question, Jessica. Back in the day, I used to be very involved in the print industry, and variable data printing, when it first started out, there was lots of data that was showing the value of it, that it was, yes, a little more costly to do, but the amount of engagement you would get rose dramatically. Is that still in play? Are you guys doing variable data? And by that, I mean, just for our listeners, so on the cover of the magazine, you could actually have the logo of the business that you're targeting, or the person's name variably put in there, just to make it so that it's more personalized, and thereby people get more excited about it, right? Is that a thing still?
We have done that internally for a marketing campaign, and it did work. We did get phone calls from it. And it is documented. Forbes did a study that CEOs prefer print. When they're working or they're doing something very important or reading something important, they print it off. They want to see it in a tangible. And so we've seen that over and over. And I think the other thing that's helping print media right now is the evolution of AI. There is so much AI content out there right now. People are starting to distrust what they're seeing online. So print is another form to build that credibility, like I've talked about, because again, people aren't always trusting what they're seeing online. Now they're looking at a photo and being like, was this generated by AI or is this actually a photo of XYZ? So that has also helped the print perception and being more credible and being more valuable for businesses.
And print it's another touch point.
Yeah.
It's another way to engage with your client or your potential client. Ken mentioned lumpy mail. That can be a good way to get people's attention if you're going after a prospective audience. It's something different. It's unique. It's something people aren't doing, and it's a way to get people's attention. And it's, we talk about these touch points, and if you're going to do a direct mail, can correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're going to do a direct mail campaign, you can't just send out one campaign to however many 2,000 people, whatever it is, and hope that works. You have to send that out 3, 4, 5 times.
Yeah, and it's exactly like when you do email newsletters. It's not just one and done. It's something you have to continue to nurture and build that brand awareness behind. You're exactly right, Paul.
So are there specific industries or demographics in which print marketing tends to be more effective than digital?
We worked with all different industries. We've had everything from private jets to jewelry to fire truck manufacturers, real estate agents, garden centers. I think at the end of the day, a print marketing is going to work for you if you know what the end goal is you're trying to achieve. Is it to build a membership? Is it to get new customers? Is it to nurture customers? It's to look at the content you're putting in there, because it needs to be content that's valuable to the readers. If it's just content that you're regurgitating for the sake of regurgitating, it's not going to land where you want it to land. And of course, you have to just always remember, who are you sending this to? I've had people talk to me, they're like, I have this beautiful print piece, which is true, but it didn't do anything for me. And I'm like, who did you send this to? They're like, I sent it to a group of 50 people one time and nothing came from it. And to your point, Paul, again, it's making sure you're continuing that campaign and you're sending it to the right target audience.
I sent 2,000 postcards one time and nothing happened.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we hear that all the time.
That can be true with anything, right?
Yeah, exactly.
One and done is not very good strategy.
But
I
unfortunately,
spent $200 on Google Ads and didn't get anything.
Yeah. Unfortunately, people then prejudge the effectiveness of a solution. And we talk a lot about on this, on this podcast, don't let your own personal biases dictate the right marketing strategies for your business, because, or your personal experiences, because, you may not have had the right information when you tried that particular tactic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think too, when you've been in your business for so long, I love to call it the curse of knowledge. Sometimes you've been in your business for so long, you're not able to see what the right solution or answer is to get to the next step in your revenues or your growth.
Yeah.
It's a great reason for getting a marketing consultant involved. There's my self-serving comment for the day. What are some of the common misconceptions that you come across about print marketing, and how have you addressed those? Just because I'm sure some of our listeners are thinking some of those things.
Well, I think we've already said it in this call that print is dead, and you're like, okay, let's talk about that. Print's not dead. It's just a different form of communication. It's a different form to cut through the noise. I love the saying, your empty inbox is your mailbox. It is a way for you to stand out. It's a longevity campaign. The other one you hear a lot is it's too expensive. yes, print is can be a little bit expensive, but the end results are what you're looking for. Again, you're standing above your competition, you're standing out, you're building that brand awareness. So if I do one day want to sell my house, I know which realtor I'm going to call because I get those postcards and those mailers in my mail almost every other week. So it's that building that muscle over time that allows us to be like, okay, I know who to call. And it's not Ghostbusters, it's this real estate agent.
Yeah.
Well,
And the
and
misconception with the realtors is that they actually look the way they looked in their photos from 10 years ago. That's just one of my pet peeves with that industry in particular. I'm like, update your photo, people.
Yeah.
well, and one of the other things with print is you can't filter it. I have like 500 filters on my email because there are certain things that I don't necessarily want to unsubscribe from, but sometimes people, they just get obnoxious with their email. So I've set up filters and it just deletes it or sends it into another folder. So I don't get, a couple of weeks ago, it's like never send email marketing messages on a Monday morning. Because I think a couple of weeks ago, I got about 20 emails in 30 minutes. And people abuse it. They get obnoxious with it. And like I said, I've got tons of filters set up in my email, but you can't do that with print. You're going to get it. Now you may throw it in the trash, but you're going to get it. So,
Well, and the thing about it, I mean, because I've been involved in some political campaigns, and mail is huge in political campaigns. And, the point is, people still get them. They probably still look at it and get some recognition from the piece, whether or not they actually read it verbatim or not. You're still getting your brand's visibility in front of people.
Yeah.
Because it is that physical piece that they have to do something with. It's pretty easy to just click on an email and delete it and be done with it. Or now it's getting easier and easier to unsubscribe, from unwanted lists. So, so there's still value in getting it delivered, even if it's not necessarily read, right?
Yeah, and some of our client partners don't even mail it out. They have stores that they keep it in stores. It's a thank you that goes with their receipt. So come back again. There's a coupon in my newsletter.
Yeah.
There's different mediums and ways you can get your newsletter out. Real estate agents keep them for open houses. There are different ways you can use that. Trade shows are another big one that print media is a great thing to have on your table.
Yeah. So speaking of trade shows, I think that's a good segue to the next question that I had for you, which is, really, we've talked a little bit about this, but how can you more effectively integrate, print and digital together so that because Ian loves it when I use this term. I'm a big believer in force multiplication. Using one channel to help you amplify, and actually multiple omni-channel to multiply and amplify the effectiveness in any one given campaign. So are you guys, I know you talked about QR codes, but are you doing like specific call tracking numbers or, even personalized URLs or unique URLs that people are only getting to from within those print publications?
A lot of our clients will do that. They'll say, Jess, we need a QR code. Here's the landing page we built for it. They have specific URLs for that. They have bit.ly sometimes, jot URLs, so they can measure it in different ways. It's definitely something we see all the time. And one thing we love to do at TULIP is we're big fans of repurposing content. So you've done this print campaign with us already. Let's strip everything out. We're going to give you all the images. We're going to give you all the articles so you can put them on your blog, build up your SEO. We're going to give you all the social images so you can put them on your socials and get people excited. Put it in your email newsletter. Put it as a free downloadable PDF. All they have to do is put in their email, and then they can get their address, and they can get a copy, physical copy, going down the road. So like you said, it's using one medium to build up other mediums. And that's one of the things we love to do is repurpose your content from the print and extend it online.
Yeah. Well, and likewise, you could take really good quality blog posts and repurpose those into print. I mean, so it can go both ways.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
every print issue you do with us will give you the online link to that magazine. So again, extending it differently, putting it out on different mediums, putting it in your email signature. So every time you send an email, they can click on your magazine and read it.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
So, Jessica, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but what are some common mistakes that businesses should avoid when putting together a print marketing campaign?
Yeah. One thing is making sure it represents your brand identity and who your company is. Putting content in there that's valuable to the reader. One thing we see very common is, which we love, it's not a mistake, but one thing I always say for people to do is feature your clients in the magazine. It's a great way to build that community, your network. And of course, you have the person you're featuring going, look, mom, I'm in a magazine, and telling everybody else about it. So make sure you're giving that value content. Put a free downloadable quiz or coupon or PDF in there that they can go online and get that from you. Make your content interesting, and what people are looking for in your industry. Send it to the right people. We've already talked about that. And I think this is also something you see in the digital realm, and I'm sure you gentlemen will agree, but don't use ChatGPT to be your end product. You can use it as an assistant, but don't use it as your end product for content, because if I can type in ChatGPT 3 marketing mistakes somebody might be making for business, so can my competitors. So make sure you're putting out original, valuable content.
Well, I'm just going to copy and paste what ChatGPT spits out.
Yeah. Yeah. So we also talked about, I think, another really important point, which is print marketing is not a one and done kind of a thing. You know, it just like anything, you need to do things to stay top of mind, and you also need to do things that are, you know, nurturing people through the natural buyer's journey. And, you know, if you send, you know, Paul used 2,000 postcards. I think it's more typically, you know, a lot of people think, oh, I send 10,000 postcards or 50,000 postcards, I'm going to get some kind of a response. And yeah, they might, but they're probably, at the end of the day, they're probably still underwhelmed with the performance, because they sent it to the same people to just one person, without any follow-up. And so I think that's another big mistake that we come across a lot.
No call to action. I think that's something businesses forget in the digital realm as well. There's no call to action. There's no telling the consumer or the reader what they need to do next, or what they need to do next with the information that they read about. So that's a good point, Ken. I know we always talk about that digitally, especially if you're in the story brand realm, but it's something people miss.
Yeah. Do you guys help your clients incorporate, you know, one of the things I love about StoryBrand, it's so obvious when you stop to think about it, but until it's pulled into your attention, you really easily overlook it. And that is the plan. You know, give people a 3-step plan, you know, on how to get started, because just because you have a schedule a consultation now button, or you have a call to action in the magazine, if you don't make it really clear and obvious, you do this, and hey, here's what happens next.
Yeah.
People aren't necessarily going to take those calls to action. So do you guys help with that as well?
Yeah, so one of the things we provide at TULIP is not only ghostwriting services, because we know there's nothing worse than staring at a blank piece of paper trying to write an article. So we have ghostwriting services, but we also have design services. So if you sell an ad in your magazine, Ken, we can create that for you. And being prior StoryBrand certified agency, we know that the messaging we put in that ad, we know that we should include a plan, or we should include the problem and the solution that we're trying to portray. We should include a call to action. So because we were part of that community, we are versed in what works for advertising and also what works for messaging.
Yeah. Okay.
Follow up. You have to follow up. That's the one thing that businesses just seem to fail to do.
Well, and I think thinking through what you guys were just talking about, one of the things I see as a mistake too is that people forget to consider where in the buyer's journey they're actually targeting a particular strategy. And I think print media can be used throughout the strategy, but you need to understand, in order to measure it properly, you need to understand, like, what are we going to say? How are we going to say it? Where are they in their buyer's journey in order to motivate them properly, right? Otherwise, you'll have unrealistic expectations and you're probably going to be targeting the message wrong. As you were talking about, Jessica, about, you have to date before you marry someone. And the same is true in the relationship that you're trying to get from a prospective buyer to an actual customer.
And that's exactly right. And that's why we always talk about, what's your goal? What's the end game for this print campaign? What are you trying to do at the end of the day? Because that tells you what type of content and messaging you're putting in there, to your point.
Yeah.
How do you string together print campaigns to move people through the buyer's journey? Can you give me an example of, maybe different things that you do along the way through print?
Yeah. We'll go back to the fire truck manufacturer. So these are sometimes multi, depending on how many trucks, $1 million deals that they're trying to get. And it's interesting. We discovered, after asking a whole bunch of questions, is where in the buyer's journey do your customers get stuck? And it was when they had to write an RFP. Fire chiefs did not have time to write RFPs, and I wouldn't either. You're trying to put out fires, you not do paperwork.
Right.
And we discovered that if we were going to write content, that it needed to be around helping these fire chiefs write RFPs. So the content we had around were three things you could be forgetting in your RFP. All the messaging was around that, and that's how it worked in their print campaigns. And we also tied it with value-added content, like download three things you're missing on your tanker. So those transitional call to actions. So we tied it in their problem and solution they were offering to customers into their marketing like that.
So you identified a problem and solved it.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
In that case, we did for the fire truck manufacturer. Now, some of our clients come to us with different goals in mind. They want to build their membership. They want to sell more houses in Ontario. I'm saying Ontario because I know one of you is from Ontario. So each client we work with has different goals, and sometimes that buyer's journey is just all about brand awareness. Sometimes it's about getting a foot in the door, like our insurance agencies, and featuring their clients so they become more known in the community. Every client's different.
Cool. And I was going to ask you, Jessica, what the best way to measure and track print campaigns is, but I think we've probably covered that really well, unless you have some additional metrics or secrets that you can share. Yeah,
there's a lot of different ways to do that. And I think it comes down to what engagement pieces you're putting in your print campaign, because you can't knock on everybody's door and be like, get my mail. So there's special QR codes, there's links that you can track, there's contests, surveys. That's a big one, especially in the association industry, asking your members what they think about X, Y, and Z. There's webinar signups. It's just, again, dependent on your industry and what's going to fit for you.
And as a follow-up question to that, we spoke a little bit about trade shows, but any tips for leveraging print for trade shows?
We've seen a lot of different things for trade shows. We've seen trade shows special magazines. So it's just a magazine specially made for that trade show. So it's featuring people from that trade show. If you were not the owners of the trade show, we've also seen our clients use it to get more bookings, because they're like, hey, if you just take this magazine, if you go to page 5, you can see this, fill out this form, and you could win a Yeti if you book a call with us. So we've seen a couple different ways people have used it at trade shows.
Very cool.
As far as tracking results from print media campaigns, Jessica, you mentioned QR codes. Send them to a landing page. Okay. You might want to de-index those landing pages. So it's not a perfect solution, but you can be pretty sure that the only way people are going to get to that particular landing page is from that campaign. So, and call tracking numbers.
Well, and to your point, Paul, too, is the link in the QR code could be a special link just for that magazine. So you don't even have to de-index it. You could just have that special link that's linked just for that magazine. That the only people that would have it are the readers. Back to the trade show thing. The other thing we've seen is, the other thing we've seen is with trade shows is you talk to a lot of people throughout the day, and you're going to forget their names after a week after you're back from the trade show. So having a magazine with maybe your logo on it, with your faces on it, can help them be like, oh yeah, that's who Jessica Embree is. That's what she does. Yeah, because it's overwhelming sometimes being at a trade show, meeting thousands of people and being like, I don't remember whose business card this is. What did they do? What did they offer? So that's another way magazines can help you out at a trade show.
Yeah. So what else should we know about print marketing that we haven't talked about so far?
I think there's a lot you can talk about for print marketing, but I always like to remind consumers is print marketing, if you're going to do it, make sure you have the right goals in mind. Make sure you have engaging pieces. Make sure you're sending it to the right people. Like you said, there's some people out there who have done it before and they've said, this failed, it's not going to work, I never want to do print again. I always say reconsider and think about those three things that I just spoke about.
Quick follow-up question, that something we didn't touch on, and I just thought about this because I was talking to someone yesterday about Google Ads, and it's like, look, I don't know if you can get results with $1,000 because of the changes with Google. Is there a budget that people should have in mind, and how do they arrive at what they should be spending on a print marketing campaign?
And that's a very common question too. You can spend a couple $1,000s a month. It's dependent on a lot of different things, Paul. It's how many pages you're thinking about doing. How many times a year would you like to put it out? How many quantities are you doing? So it is dependent on a few different factors. But we always give a ballpark of, it could be a couple $1,000s a month that you're spending on these print campaigns.
Oh, so they can't do it for $10 a month. Okay. Oh God, you'd be surprised. I was talking to someone back to Google Ads. They're like, well, $5 a click. It's like, well, I don't determine that. Google determines that. But it's like, they're like, well, $200 a month. That's a lot to spend on Google Ads. It's like, yeah, well, no, it's not. But you're not going to get any results at $200 a month. That's just how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's probably a minimum investment that people need to be prepared to make, right? So you help guide your clients through, look, if you're only going to spend that amount of money, you might as well save it. We do this all the time with SEO. Mm-hmm. It's like, if you can't spend a couple of grand a month on SEO, save it and use it in other ways, and maybe save, if there are better, maybe you need to look at a paid marketing strategy, maybe you need to look at a print campaign. But then, if your ultimate goal is to help do SEO, make sure you're saving some of the revenue that you're generating through these other tactics to reinvest. Mm-hmm. But people need to be realistic, and they need to be told real numbers, because otherwise they're going to spend the money. And there are going to be plenty of marketing firms out there who will take that money knowing that they're not going to get the results, but they're going to take the money because, they just churn through clients.
Yeah, and that's something we're very upfront about in our sales process is, okay, I know you want to do a 100-page magazine monthly, but let's set you up for success. What are your time, or do you have time constraints around this? What's your investment thoughts? Like, do you meet BANT? Do you have the budget, authority, need, and time to invest in this type of campaign? So we always look for that type of conversations and make sure you're setting yourself up for success. We want this to be a win-win for everybody. So we're not going to oversell you a print program and just be like, okay, have fun, to your point, Ken. We want to make sure everybody's succeeding and meeting the goals that they're trying to get at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Here it is. Good luck. So unless someone has something to add, I think this is probably a good place to wrap up. Jessica, I have your information down there. I'm going to assume that's the best way for people to find out more about you, get in touch.
Yeah, and
Correct
you
me
can
if I'm wrong.
No, you can. That's absolutely right, Paul. And you can also find me on LinkedIn, Jessica Embree. Feel free to send me a message there. Like Ken, I get hundreds of those every day, and I always laugh at them because they're like, "We can help you with your marketing." I was like, "That's what I do."
Yeah.
So yeah,
Did you not read my profile?
yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn or visit tulipmediagroup.com and contact us through there.
Okay, awesome.
All right. Good deal, Jessica. Thanks for joining us and sharing your knowledge and expertise. Ian, you want to take us out? Because that's your thing.
Sure. Thanks again, Jessica, for being here. And thanks to our listeners and viewers. And if you guys who are listeners and viewers, our audience has any topics you want us to cover, reach out to us. We love to share information with you that's going to help you engage your audience and get your marketing going. So until next week, keep calm and market on.
Thank you.
Thank you.